So as we all know, Fujifilm hit home runs when it comes to their cameras. For $1,300, we got a camera that does 6.2 open gate, f-log 2, has 13 stops at dynamic range, ProRes and ProRes Raw externally. It does 6.2K ProRes Raw open gate and 5.8K Raw up to 60 frames per second. Now for a quick comparison, the Fujifilm X-S20 has 13 stops of dynamic range like I mentioned, and the new Blackmagic Pixel 6K has 13 stops of dynamic range as well. And this camera is less than half of the price. Now I consider the X-S20 what you would call a cinema light camera. That is because of the raw, the dynamic range, and the functionality you can achieve when you rig this camera up. While I can say that this camera is not perfect, I would still recommend this camera for most people, even if you're shooting some type of corporate or production work. Now of course, that recommendation do come with some caveats. So let's start by saying why I got this camera. I got this camera to be my C camera during weddings, but my B camera and everything else. The reason is because this camera produced damn near the same image quality as the X-H2S, which is what I'm shooting on right now. It's literally a baby version of the X-H2S that shares some, but not all, of its important features that I already named. Now the real selling point for me that this camera has is the ProRes Raw. ProRes Raw is literally the best image quality you can get out of this camera and nearly all other mirrorless cameras except Nikon and Canon. Nikon has the ability to shoot Nikon RAW, and Canon has the ability to shoot Canon RAW or Canon RAW Lite. As of now, Nikon is the only mirrorless camera that can shoot a true RAW Kodak because their Nikon RAW is based off Tico RAW. Now, this is a Fujifilm camera, and of course, it has superb image quality. I shoot in ProRes RAW a lot because I love the flexibility of it. Like I said in the previous video, I transcode all my ProRes RAW footage into Cinema DNG. The ProRes Raw in this camera is only 12-bit, but that is more than enough. Now, the creator was shot in ProRes Raw from an Animos Ninja V, which limits the recording of ProRes Raw from the FX3 from 16-bit to 12-bit. And from watching that movie, we can all agree that the creator looked amazing. Can't even tell that it was shot on a $3,500 camera. I don't mind the space that's needed to shoot ProRes Raw, because to be honest, I'd rather have the ability to use it or to shoot it than to not have it at all. Now this past week, I ran this camera as a B camera on a production shoot. I had it fully rigged up, shooting 6.2K RAW in 24 frames per second. Nearly after one interview, about 30 minutes or so, I got an overheating warning from the camera. Now I was shocked a bit because that's the first time I got a temperature warning on the camera, but honestly it was my B camera, so I wasn't really too concerned. I switched the temperature mode to high, and then when I shot the second interview, everything worked out just fine. I did get another warning, but the camera made it through that second interview. Luckily, this camera is compatible with the Fujifilm cooling fan, and I will be getting 2 of those. As I stated earlier, this camera is only $1,300. At this price point, there are only 2 cameras that I could think of that could compare to this camera in terms of image quality, and that is the Blackmagic Pocket 4K and the Sigma FP. Now, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K is less than $1,300, and it does B-RAW internally. The Sigma FP is less than $1,200 right now, and that camera does Cinema DNG internally. Most likely, if you are shooting a production, you're rigging your camera up anyway. You're not going to use your camera directly out of box. Most likely, you will rig a monitor on your camera. You'll put a handle on your camera, and you'll make your camera more functional for your shoot, depending on the environment. And that's also with any mirrorless or cinema camera, don't matter. Now, just like its big brother, it has 4 settings on the custom dial, and mine are C1 6.2K, C2 4K 60, C3 5.8K RAW, and C4 6.2K RAW open gate. Now I will mention the 2 biggest cons of this camera, and then I will move on. The micro HDMI and the 1 card slot. I know just from those 2 cons alone, most people will exclude this camera from any type of production shoot. Now, while the image quality is amazing, this is not a cinema camera. I am not being delusional by thinking I can replace a cinema camera with the X-S20. But if you rig it up, add a cooling fan, plan your angles, plan your lighting, plan your shots, you can get cinematic images from this camera, no problem. We have already seen real life examples of movies shot on mirrorless cameras that prove what we have in our hands are more than enough to create what we want. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the examples that I've shown. In this video, I was really just focusing on the image quality, not really anything else. But before you go, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.